Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker, and as we go through our journey of tea, we're going to be learning a little bit about tea quality and talking about how to choose, or if you have two of the same kinds of tea, how would you compare them? How they stack up when they're put head to head. So we got a green tea today. Green teas are newer to a lot of people, especially loose leaf teas. If you're going from a tea bag over to loose leaf teas, and you're just wondering, well, what does a good green tea look like? Let's talk about one of those. Maybe this is a good, maybe this is a mediocre, maybe this is a bad tea, but we'll find out together. This is a Chinese green called a Maofeng that we're going to be getting ready here. So let's go ahead and get this started. Basic equipment as usual. The Chinese guy one, meaning basically a bowl, a lid, and a saucer underneath. Ideal for really getting a tea a test drive because it's easy to prepare, or easy to use, I should say. It allows you to put in the control fairly easily the water, the temperature, the heat of the cup of the actually the water. It doesn't swirl around, get trapped in. It can rise up. It gives you a nice even steeping process here. So I'm going to, I usually use my spoon, but this is a kind of a bulky type of leaf. So I'm going to use my hands. And I'm going to take out enough. This is a 4-ounce Gaiwan, by the way. And I'm going to take out enough tea so that I can cover the bottom of that Gaiwan. And I still see a little bit of the floor, so to speak, of this Gaiwan. So I'm going to add just a light pinch more. That looks good. All right, so seal that back up. And what I do when I get a tea that comes, sometimes a shipment will come inside a container, cardboard container like this. I think these are quite useful. They're usually sealed in an aluminum type or foil type bag inside. But then once that's open, the outside of the container, the cardboard tin, can often be enclosed, or sometimes enclosed in another plastic bag. So I take that plastic bag, which is outside the canister here. I put my foil, or my foil type bag, inside the plastic bag, so I'm double sealing, keeping this even fresher. Keeps the air out, keeps the light out, keeps the humidity, it helps keep the humidity out as well. Okay, so we'll set that to the side. Water's been brought to a boil. It's been cooling for the minute or so that I've been speaking here. I'm going to pour that in slowly and let it just kind of coat, let the leaves swirl and get washed under the surface of the water there. And actually I'm going to add just a few drops more because I want enough water to make a seal that rises above the lid there. So let's make sure I do that. Kind of push them around so they stay under the lid there. That looks good. Slide that over for a minute. Now we can kind of introduce this tea with a little more detail. This is from ChinaChaDao is the company. You'll find this company on eBay, and it's based in China. So the fact that it doesn't have its own separate operation or retail web shop, so to speak, that can provide some discounts. The fact that Jerry from ChinaChaDao is sourcing from suppliers directly in China, that can help lower or control costs as well. So eBay teas, if they are a good tea. Another thing to point out, a lot of your Chinese teas, they are certified in China. Compared to other, you hear talk about products in China. China is fairly strict on their tea quality and grading and evaluating those aspects. So another point to consider when shopping eBay China teas. ChinaChaDao PremHuangShanMaoFeng 2010. Huangshan-Maofeng. Huangshan is in Anhui province. Famous area, recognized for its Maofeng type of tea. 125 grams, that's 4.4 ounces. For $15. Okay, so that tells you about our tea here. We're going to go ahead and talk about this tea in more detail. The dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor. So you're going to see me how I You saw how I sealed this up, so now you see what happens every time. I'm opening up this tea. Let's give it a smell here. A couple of scents coming out at this point. There is a sweetness there, and this sweetness is like a, it's not quite clove, it's more like an allspice type sweetness. So that's one of the first positive remarks. Secondly, there is something kind of green squash about this, fresh green squash, so there's that nice component there as well. Combined with just a hint of fresh green bean, okay? So those are the three dominant aroma components. And when you look at this leaf, you're going to see that these are, you're going to see leaf sets, you know, 2 leaves and a bud, or a leaf and a bud there. There's an example, nice leaf and a bud. This one is, the leaf is a little bit of a darker green. The bud is not as silvery. It doesn't look like it has as much of the fuzzy component as some other teas, but overall it looks vibrant. This looks like it has, you know, it hasn't been pan fired. It looks like it's been, well, it looks like it's might possibly some type of basket type of firing here. So you're not getting a lot of, you know, dark type toasted looking colors here. You're just getting some deep greens, some kind of emerald. Yeah, a little bit of a green gray. I'll take that back and qualify that just a bit. But yeah, your leaf size is about an inch or more in most cases. Okay, and that is our green leaf, dry leaf here. But next thing we're going to go on to do, of course, is to take care of our liquor. I'm going to seal this up again. Make sure you open it just enough so that you can press it down, squeeze it in there, and then seal up those that last little section there. And then we'll be able to go on to our wet leaf here. To do that, I'll put that right there for now. Got out my pitcher. Pitchers are great if you are serving more than one person. Tea tasting doesn't have to be something done by yourself. Get a pitcher, because the top of your liquor will be thinner, lighter looking in color. The bottom will be more intense, and you've got to balance that out. So pour it into a second vessel before you serve in order to get that distributed. Otherwise, the first cup that you serve directly from a gaiwan is going to be thinner. Okay, we're going to quickly pour so that we don't drip as much. You notice that middle finger and ring finger and thumb are kind of holding the rim. Index finger is holding the lid in place. And we almost had a leaf try to escape. We had one leaf that actually did. But for the most part, you're not going to get a lot of leaf if you do that well with this kind of tea. But let's move on now and talk a little bit about the wet leaf here. Careful, because there's going to be a lot of steam built up inside this cup. So we want to be cautious with that. Sides are still going to be quite warm, so you want to avoid touching that. Still hold on to the rim here. There is something kind of boiled green bean. I get something that's just a little bit of a soybean type note as well. Okay, so that's our wet leaf aroma. Let's go ahead and talk a bit about, see if there's anything that's changed in the appearance of our leaves from dry to wet. You're getting still some needle sets here, which I'm pulling out. I'm going to put this back in just to kind of clear the slate here. A nice needle there. This needle's half an inch. That's a larger size needle. I mean, different teas from different areas, they vary slightly. So you'll have some leaves or some buds or needles that are larger than others, depending on the varietal of tea. This leaf, looking at this as a leaf set here, I mean, it's a delicate leaf. It's a bright green, a little bit yellow tinge to it. little bit of discoloration on that leaf, and I'm trying to see if I can detect what or why. It's in the middle of the leaf. Looks like it could be just a slight amount of bruising or something that took place. A bruising will break some of the structures inside the leaf, cause a little bit of oxidation, a little bit of color change in that, as it does so. But you are getting some nice tender leaves in there as well. So overall, nothing unusual, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing too surprising yet. So let's go ahead and move to our liquor then. I'm going to go ahead and swirl that around a little bit. Something lightly buttery in this, very faint, but it's got a rich green bean type of brothy component to it. It's a bright color. You can actually still see the down from the leaves floating around in there, so it gives it this kind of it almost looks kind of grainy as it's floating around, but it's a very light, delicate type of grain. It's swirling around, quite nice. Hold that up to the light and see those dance around. But let's go ahead and give this a taste then. Still a little bit of boiled green bean coming out. In the initial part, in the front part, initial taste, you got some of that green bean component. You got a little bit of that green squash element in there as well. So these feel sweet. They feel rich in those components. What else do we have? The astringency, I should note, astringency is quite light. You get a little bit more towards the back. It's gentle. It's more subtle. It doesn't really overly dry. It balances well with that kind of brothy feel in the mouth. So you get some broth. You get a touch of tingle from the powdery kind of dryness there. Bitterness. No real bitterness to call out. I would not call this tea bitter by any means. And then the aftertaste. What's happening here, of course, you're getting an extension of the flavors that we already talked about. So that's there. And what happens is you get a little bit of that kind of drying feel. You get a little bit of the sweetness there. You get this still kind of heavy, you get a bit of a vegetable soup broth kind of feel in the mouth as well. So when you look at this tea as a whole, these things kind of blend together well. That's why I'm going to give this tea, a 90. I believe it's quite good. This would be a great kind of starter out tea. I mean, it's not I would not classify this as a superior quality. It's a good quality. It balances well. It blends well. It brings out some sweetness. It's not bitter. It's not heavily astringent. It's a good mix of all those components brought together quite well. So come back and join us at Walker Tea Review. I hope you learned a little bit about quality by looking at leaves and sizes of leaves, looking at your texture, leaf components of your liquor as well, so that you can enjoy that tea. It's your convenience with friends, and just for a quick cup of enjoyment for yourself.